Well, in the previous video, we looked at application variables. Now let's take a look at session variables. A lot of similarities between these two. Pretty much everything I said in the example you saw in the previous video works just the same for session variables. A session variable stores information for a particular session or a particular user moving through a website. Now there's initialization in the session start event, so anytime I want to kind of start my session variables off, bring them to life, I will usually do that in the session start event in that global ASAX page. There is a session object very similar to the application object that's created automatically when the user first requests a web page in an ASP.NET web application or a website. Once that's created, then that session is tracked until the user exits the web application. Now, it'll also be destroyed after that user has set for more than 20 minutes without any other activity, and this is just a timeout. Now, this is a default value, this 20 minutes right here. We can modify this in the web config file. Some people have found that if they drop this to 10 minutes, then once somebody has stopped moving around on the website, then they don't have to wait as long for those resources to be freed up for another session. Now, sometimes they find if they drop it too low, that people are trying to use the website, but they're not quite as quick as others, and they get timed out, and suddenly the next time they hit the server, they're treated as a new user, and their data's gone, and they can't finish their commerce or whatever. So those can be adjusted. Now, let's talk about with server variables. How are we going to store data in these session variables on the server in the global ASAX file? We're going to use a key and string dictionary type layout again. And notice this example. Here, we're going to store the fact that a user likes a green background. And so obviously, in this web app, we've given the user the capability of changing the back color of the web page or a particular section of the web page, and they've chosen green. And so we've written that in a session variable. Notice session, then here's the key back color, and we're setting it equal to green. Now, that's for as long as the session is going. That's out there, and then we can retrieve it later. And notice in this situation, in our app, we've got a string called backColor that's a variable, and we're setting it equal to whatever is stored in the session backColor variable. Now, again, this is very similar to applications, so I'm not going to do another example, but sometimes you may want to store application variables so that all users can see them. And then other times you just want to store session variables because you only want the individual user who starts that session to be able to see that information. So again, I hope you're getting an idea. Now this is part of state. Because if we store session variables on a particular user that stay unique to that user as they move through the website, are we not maintaining state with that user now? Every time that user connects back to the web server, we can reattach information to that user. And you've seen this all the time where you've filled out forms on a website, and then you went to a new page, and part of your information automatically got populated into fields on the next page. It's extremely convenient. People like it. And session variables are the way to do that. So that's a good look at session variables. And as we go on through the videos, in the next video, I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about cookies.